Hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Aspiring Entrepreneur. I'm your host Hamza Chowdhury, and welcome to this week's stock update. It is January 18th, 2021. And for some of you guys who are new to the channel, the way this works is usually Sunday, today is Monday, it is a holiday, so the markets are closed. I post up a few tickers that we follow on this channel: Apple, Tesla, Palantir, and sometimes some other miscellaneous stocks like we'll do today. And so what I'm going to start doing, and you can kind of let me know what you think in the feedback section of the comment section of the video, is I'm actually going to start combining the videos into a single video, which makes it a lot easier to produce and get out, and it allows me to cover a lot more symbols rather than making independent videos. And for some of you guys who are interested in certain symbols, what you can see in the description below is I actually have a description timestamp of each video, each stock, and what time I sort of cover that. So for example, if you're not interested in not all the symbols and maybe just certain symbols, you can look in the description of the video and click on the timestamp to jump right through this video. With that said, guys, we'll just jump right in. I hope you guys are all doing well. We are entering the 4th week of trading this month. Really excited. I hope you guys have had a solid month so far. The way I like to start the video is just generally talk about some advice and things that I'm seeing in the market. I had a fun conversation with a friend's mom today. Talked about, just this idea of following other traders. One of the popular things if you're new to trading, and it's sort of a kind of an easy thing, if maybe you haven't had luck trading in the past, maybe you've had some struggles and some negative trades, and it kind of be bogged down and think that, the only way to succeed in this game is to really follow others. And I'm sort of here to kind of advise you that, it's so easy to want to follow others, but understand that everybody's account size and the way they trade is different. I formed my personal trading strategy over many years, and I can tell you it's evolved and it's changed. And I wouldn't necessarily try to sell it, right? So that's why this channel, I always say it's a 100% free content channel. Selling a strategy and selling something proprietary to something that you've created is one thing, but sort of selling for someone to just kind of blindly follow you and just give trades and sell it like a chat room or something like that, to me just doesn't make much sense. And if you're someone who's new to trading, I definitely encourage you to paper trade. That's the way I would recommend sort of learning how to trade, and kind of, sort of write a journal of when you entered a trade, what was your exit, what was your thesis, your thought process, and really just sitting on your hands. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours I personally have spent just watching charts. And that's one thing I'm going to share in this video, is actually a very profitable chart pattern that you can look out for yourself, that you can learn. And when you see it, you'll realize that, hey, I've seen this pattern before and I know how to trade it. And a lot of that doesn't come from following people. It comes from just literally watching charts and just trying to understand, why did this fail? Why did this succeed? Why did this person get ran over? Why were shorts getting squeezed on GME this week? Really trying to observe rather than necessarily follow. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with observing, listening, and understanding like you are maybe in this video, but trying to follow someone, right? When, like I said, you don't know how they trade. Are they adding to losers, doing some of the things that maybe you're not comfortable with? And a lot of times, sometimes people put everything up front, right? When they jump into trade, they put in full size, they don't have room to add, or maybe they don't even have room to swing. A lot of times, we're really a day trading type of channel. You really don't want to swing. Okay, so with that said, guys, let's just jump right into the first stock we're going to cover tonight, which will be Apple. So let me just jump right in. So one of the things I mentioned last week was I really thought that Apple was going to trade in this channel between 130 and 140. And what I realized coming into Monday was it looked like 130 was becoming resistance for Apple. And so I actually started shorting. And the reason why I said that is this day, Monday, you can see that this dotted line here represents a 20-day moving average on the Bollinger Band. It's the middle band. And as we always talk about, the Bollinger Band is one of my favorite technical indicators. Is the bottom half represents bearish momentum, and if we use the bottom half as resistance, which is a 20-day, it usually represents a bearish sign. So when I saw that we sort of had this doji candle and we rejected that level, and then we retested, and then we actually broke through it briefly, we were still trading on this bottom half of the Bollinger channel. So this is the upper band, this is the lower band, this is the center. So around this day when I started shorting, I actually looked at what the 50-day, which is this represented by this line here, and I saw with the Bollinger Band, and it looked like this Apple was starting to form a channel. And when I saw the channel, I actually announced in one of the chat rooms that I'm a part of that I'm actually going to be bearish on Apple down to about 124, 125. Okay, so you can see the 50-day right now is running right over 124. And as this channel comes up and intersects the 50-day, I think that's a perfect support and validation, because again, if you look at how we've traded in the past, you can see that we've constantly bounced off the 50-day, or we've traded around the 50-day. But just having the fact that we're having this channel, the Bollinger Band is starting to flatten out, and we also have this 50-day coming in, I can totally see a 125, 120, mid 126 sort of level here as a perfect support. Okay, so if I were to get into Apple, definitely a channel between 125 and an upper band as the channel comes up here around 135. So what you can recall before, after the split, is we traded between 110, 115 all the way up to 120, and now we're going to channel in the upper mid 120s to the mid 130s. So we've sort of elevated that channel on this brief upper band. And Apple is just one of those stocks, guys. Keep in mind, it's a $2 trillion company. It's not going to be a company that's going to move 10% a day. When it moves 5%, you can see it adds quite a lot of liquidity into the stock market and a lot of valuation. And of course, it just bounced right back down into the middle channel here. So again, bearish to Apple until we validate probably a 124, 125 price point, and then I can see us going up. And you can see, in terms of the RSI, we're around 45, so we're a little more closer to the oversold sign, and you can see that the momentum has shifted negative. So as we sort of wind this negative momentum down this week, we should start to see some upwards momentum to get back up into the 130s to the mid 130s. And then eventually, we have the earnings in a couple weeks on the 27th of January, and that's when we're going to learn about how was the iPhone sales, how was the sales and the estimate compared to what we were expecting the Apple to do. And of course, from what we've heard, the iPhone 12 sales have been incredible. So I expect them to blow it out of the water. So do we get a run up prior to earnings? Potentially, right? So don't be surprised if you see 135 before the earnings. But what happened during the last earnings, right? We had this massive dump. So, again, as a day trader, probably won't affect me because I won't be holding anything. But as always, anytime we're oversold, I'm buying calls out of the money and just selling them on any push back up. Okay, and I usually buy them about 2 months out. Okay, so with that said, look for a 125 to 135 channel forming. And if you're trying to dip buy Apple, like I said, I'd wait for the 125 right around here, this level to hit. Okay, and so with that said, guys, let's jump to our next one, which will be Tesla. And so Tesla is really interesting too, because we had called that after the post S&P news, there really was no news, right? So we had this high volume day back on December 18th, and we talked about how we really sold off to this 20-day support, and then we just jumped right back in. Okay, so we came right back and we just started going back on the upper band and making this thing bullish again. And it was really kind of surprising because, you would thought, from 400 all the way up to 700 that, Tesla needed a break. And it had a couple of days where, it did sell off, and then it bounced right back up and it continued. And shorts have completely lost everything in this stock. I mean, keep in mind, Tesla's only growing. It's not a company that's shrinking, right? So the stock market is a forward-looking thought process, right? So we're looking at Tesla being, essentially almost close now to $1 billion valuation, $1 trillion, valuation. And it's just been way off the charts, and now it's growing in India. They just filed a new company for Tesla India. We know that they're the biggest EV in China, and they're beating NIO. And so we know that this company is essentially, we're at the grassroots, we're at the foundation level of EV and what the EV is doing to the world. And especially with the Biden administration, we know that these types of companies are going to be favored among environmentalists and among government officials. So definitely there's a lot of bullish momentum through Tesla. The problem is, and I did dip buy when we flushed down back here. I got a quick buy in around 805, and I got a quick 5-10 point bounce in a matter of a few minutes. I didn't hold my position, but you can see we really have struggled here at a key level here, which is this 860, 865 area. So if I were to go long on Tesla, this is really the key level here. I'm looking for a breakout. And when we break out, again, we're going to look at this next level of resistance, which is around 885. Okay, so around 860, 865, if you're a breakout trader, that's what I'm looking for a long. And then of course I'm expecting a resistance at 885. Now if we do break through this level, my gut feeling is that just based on the performance and the fact that we've held the 800s for as long as we have, which means we've consolidated, we're trading sideways, is that if we don't flush down, and we're going to continue to go back up to 900 and make all new time highs. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. is as soon as we get over 885, we're looking at all new time highs. If we're looking at anything over 865, we're looking at a breakout to test that new resistance. And then, like I said, in terms of a breakdown, where I really would personally get interested in Tesla is really right around here, around the low 700 level, where we're not necessarily bearish, but we're not necessarily bullish. But you can see, again, just looking at the past performance, we always talk about looking left, which we can do in terms of recent price action. But looking left, we can also see that we've respected this 20-day average. So as this sort of comes up, I can see that we could potentially test the sort of low 700s if you're bearish on Tesla, and that's if I'm dip buying. Okay, so if I've already sort of bought over back here and I've sold and I've made my profit, you could potentially hold for that next squeeze up, which is obviously possible because of the fact that we've held up the 800 level. But at the same time, if you want to dip buy for the long term, you can obviously wait for something more in the 700 range. Like I said, with this sort of 20-day moving average coming back up, definitely something in the mid to low 700s is where I get interested. But it's just been a crazy stock. It's been difficult to track just on even making these videos, because if you take a look here, we had 1, 2, 3 days, essentially 4 trading sessions, and we went all the way from high 6s all the way to 8, right? And for most stocks, they don't even make that move in over a year. And this was like 4 trading sessions. So we're so overbought that you can see the RSI has been trading as low as 58, and right now we're trading around 65. So when I see 58, that's when I'm looking to buy. Well, like I said, which is where I feel like when we'll get into the sort of 725, 730-ish range down here for Tesla. But as long as we're continuing to be overbought, you can see that the momentum is slowly drying up, and we're going to start seeing some sell-off occur. And that's where I would look to buy Tesla, is sort of in the high, or the low 7, excuse me. And then of course, like I said, looking around the 58 RSI is validation. And of course, also look for that negative momentum to come in to know that you're going to get a good deal compared to, again, someone who's going to be potentially bag holding Tesla in the high 8s. Okay. And so with that said, let's go with our next stock, which will be the Palantir. And same thing here, is you can see there's been a lot of negative momentum for Palantir for quite a while. And this is a stock that I've mentioned I'm heavy on. I sell calls pretty much on a weekly basis. It's been just quite the money maker. And one of the things I noticed was when we had this 50-day average coming in here, I just had a gut feeling that it looked like our stock, one of our favorite stocks on the channel, wanted to sort of consolidate. You can see it's created this channel on the Bollinger Band, and it's just been bouncing right back and forth from the upper band all the way to the lower band. And so once we crossed over, again, we were bearish. We had this sort of upper bounce, and then come on Friday, we had this news that Kathy with ARK Investing has basically bought a ton of shares. I think it was like 15 million worth of shares. So there's just a ton of people that believe in the stock. They're going long on the stock. This is their big stock for 2021. I'm bullish on the stock. And so one of the things that we found was, all of this news, this catalyst, and every time this comes out, what happens? We get these red candles, right? But now you can see we're trading above the sort of 20-day average, and the channel's flattened out, and you can see this 50 days coming in. So if I was really looking to dip buy Palantir, again, with the RSI being as low as it is, closer to the oversold, and this negative momentum sort of drying up, so we should see sort of a next leg up. So guys, keep in mind, this was a $10 stock that went up to $33 in a matter of a month. So when we see that there's a sideways action, it's just consolidating for the next leg up as we continue this uptrend. But there was definitely a lot of shares exchanged between here the last couple months, and a lot of great news, a lot of contracts. Wait till the next earnings report when we see all these contracts that have been signed, and that income starts to come in, and these partnerships start to grow and evolve, and Palantir starts to sell their software and the technology to more and more agencies and more commercial use. This is a stock that's definitely, like I said, something I want to hold on to for quite a while. So again, sideways action in this channel, but the breakout, what we're really looking for is something over the 29.50 range, which is really where we got stuck here a couple weeks ago, is around the mid 29s. So what I expect is that we're just going to continue to consolidate between 23 and 29. And if I'm a breakout trader, again, I'm looking for a breakout over 29. What I feel like is going to happen is I want to see a bounce off of this 50 to validate that, and then we should see a continued leg up. And like I said, we're literally 1, 2, 3 catalysts away. There's just been a ton of great news, so definitely expecting a breakout. Okay, so with that said, guys, the key levels again will be 23 to 29 is the channel, and if you're waiting for that breakout, definitely anything over 29.50, back to potentially testing the highs of 33. I believe this was 33.50. Okay, So Plug Power, definitely the hydrogen play. I mean, it's been a big play. Alternative energy, obviously the Biden administration, all about environmentally, friendly companies, and all these companies have just been blowing up and going way off the charts and going vertical. And with Plug Power, again, similar to Palantir, is it just has had a ton of good news. It's launched a partnership with a French company. We know that South Korea had that $1.5 billion investment. I mean, a $1.5 billion investment for a company that was trading back here in October, less than around $12, and hit a high this week of over $70. So again, this is nothing more than just sort of a hype play. There was a lot of consolidation, a lot of squeezes here, and not much consolidation. There was a lot of consolidation back here. And once we went vertical, we knew that people were either getting squeezed, or this was just basically a play to push the stock as high as it could, which it did. It went to an RSI of 90, which indicates a very oversold condition. And so if I come back here, I look around 56, you can see we've constantly validated the 56, 57 RSI. So which means that I again expect that if I look left, I see there's this constant sort of bounce off the 20-day, which right now is trading around 43. Now I don't expect necessarily that we're going to hit 43 tomorrow, but my expectation is now that we've sort of been overbought and we're sort of unwinding the positions up here, I really do expect that I can see Plug Power hitting sort of a channel between the 55s and the high 40s. So my expectation is that we're going to trade sort of in the mid 50s and the high 40s, and then we'll consolidate sideways before we could possibly get a next leg up. But this was a complete crazy move. I remember shorting the stock back here in the 30s just a couple of weeks ago, and then it just completely went vertical with all this news. So imagine, look at how like a stock like, for example, Plug takes the news if you get a $1.5 billion contract, and then look at how Palantir does, right? Where Palantir moves maybe 1 or 2 points, and then Plug moves like in doubles, or it goes up 20%. Okay, so you got to really kind of put that in perspective, is what's healthy for the stock and for the longevity if you're long for the stock, and what's really just a squeeze and a stock that's just going vertical. Okay, so really once it gets down to 58, I would expect to buy, like I said, in the mid 50s to the high 40s. That's really where I would start to look to buy. So it's just basically going to be in this trading range right in here. I would definitely not be buying anything in the high 60s or anything in the 70s right now. We definitely need to validate some supports before we get back up. It was just like Moderna and a lot of the stocks we've covered in the past. This was again just a pure momentum play. Okay, same thing, all these sort of baby sisters, baby brothers right off the back of Plug Power, which was Fuelcell. Same thing, I look to play it. This one is not as much overbought. You can see we're already trading under 70, and you can see constantly we've been bouncing off that same value of RSI of 58. So again, looking for this sort of validation of 14. If you look left, basically on Friday we saw this bounce right here on this 15-minute chart of 1425, or sorry, excuse me, 1525. That was, yeah, 1525. So we saw that bounce, and then we sort of traded flat. Really my interest level is going to be here. If you see here on the previous support, when we hit about $14, that's really where I get interested, right? Where we had previous resistance will now act as support, and we validated that here on the 11th of January. And so my expectation for Fuelcell is that I want to see it bounce right here off the 20-day and get this sort of RSI down just a little bit more. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw it right there where you see the upper resistance band here, right around $14 is where I would get interested. And I know it says 1375, 1386. You can't bottom tick these things, but I would say definitely right about there, about $14, which is essentially the bottom of this guy, 1403. And so what I would expect is that tomorrow we would trade, again, as a sort of an upper band between 17 down to 14 as be my sort of channel. And again, consolidate. We want to see some support. We don't want to just see momentum plays that buy and get overbought and then oversold, right? We want to see levels that can hold. So right now, as it was overbought and now it's starting to get sell off, and then we're starting to sell this thing off just like we are Plug. And you can obviously trade the stocks simultaneously as they both sort of do the same thing. I would expect, like I said, a 14 is my buy zone for Fuelcell. And then, like I said, any long-term strategy, you can expect some sideways action before we get a next leg up. But the energy, you can see also that the momentum is going to start to shift negative, and then we should start to see some good validation and support here in the 13-14 area. Okay, so with that said, guys, the last stock I'd like to cover in this video, and again, thank you for watching this video, is probably the most exciting stock, and just probably my best play of the week by far. Is, you know, anytime you get this sort of play where you have only so many shares outstanding, which in this case, I believe there was like, you know, 65 or so million shares outstanding of GameStop, and you had a short interest of over 100%, which means that there were more short sellers than shares out there, you're going to get this type of price action. So come Wednesday, there was this massive short squeeze that everyone kind of heard about. If you traded, you probably heard the news that people were constantly trying to find the top. And we talked about, if you haven't already, check out my shorts video on how to short. We talked about people who can get ran over trying to find the top, right? You're constantly trying to find the top, and then what you find is the stock is just squeezing you out, and you're covering and you're covering, and those people are just creating the stock to go higher and higher and higher. And then finally, right, you get your validation right here, right? So people are trying to find the top, and then you get your validation with what? An engulfing candle, right? An engulfing candle is basically a red candle that's going to engulf, and it could be a green candle too, but it's basically a candle that is bigger and larger than the previous candle. So if I look at the overall behavior of a stock that was only 20 bucks and ran all the way up to 38, is that you can see it's much larger than the previous candle, and you can see from there we just sort of traded sideways. And so one of the things I thought was interesting was, obviously I supported GameStop. I have a PS5. I was a big fan of the fact that they were just killing in holiday sales. They're big GameStop fans are buying the stock, they're long, and they're making a ton of money, and the only people selling it are short sellers. When short sellers are the only people selling a stock, and all it's getting is absorbed and absorbed by buyers and buyers, and they're just buying this up, and short sellers are the only ones selling, they're going to get squeezed out. And that's what happened here. And what was interesting was right around here, around the $30 range, I had that as my buy zone, because the pattern that we're going to talk about, one of the patterns is that if you look at DDD briefly, right? So let me just pull that up real quick here. If you look at DDD, did the same exact thing, right? A few days ago when it had this massive run up, is it trades right under VWAP. It pretends to fail, gets shorts involved, gets more shorts stuck, and then it just gets ramped right back up. Okay, so you see this ramp up, you see the sell off, you see the test right below VWAP, and then you see it trade essentially in a channel. And so recognizing that this play looked very similar to GME on Wednesday, I basically had posted that I was expecting GME now to take this $30 level, which we validated, and I expected it to run right back up to 40 plus. So I posted this up on Wednesday, and we ended up getting a $43 move, right? So shorts were essentially stuck. So shorts who were basically stuck here, either adding to their position. So again, being the only sellers, were essentially hurting more. And essentially they basically, either they didn't cover or they're just getting continuously run over. And so the key level here for me was 30, right? And so as long as we bounced off 30, I knew this would be a perfect long. And then you can see coming into Thursday, right, we validated this sort of channel, but where was the reason to short? If you were shorting GME and you were interested in shorting, this is the key level to be shorting here, right? Is a breakdown of that $30 level. Once you break down that $30 level, that's the level that you want to be shorting on. You don't want to be shorting way up here and trying to guess the top, or even up here, and now you're stuck in this sort of back and forth action, and then guess what? You just get squeezed out again. Okay, and then the same thing happens, here again, and then we start to see this breakdown, right? So we validated the top, we're clearly overbought, and now we started validating and we started to break down the channel. Okay, so the thing is that you have a strong holiday season, you have a lot of fans holding onto the stock, the longs are holding. When are they going to sell? They're going to sell when they see the stock to break down. They're not going to sell. They don't know when to sell, because we only had short sellers here, and now you're starting to say, okay, this stock is starting to break down, maybe I should sell. And those are the days, right? Not this day here where you see this very little volume red sort of candle. So you have this candle here and you see this very, very low volume bar that's red. That's not when sellers and the longs are selling, right? When they recognize that this was the top and the stock's starting to tank, then you're going to get a big volume jump, and you're going to see a lot of sellers jump in, not just the short sellers, but the ones who want to sell. And that's when we expect the stock to come back to earth. Okay, so yes, you can short the stock, but you should have validated the top and see sort of a resistance level that it was having trouble. In this case, it was, essentially $43 was the top. And so there were plenty of ways to short. And then of course, as we broke down, we've held this level of $34 and we held it Thursday as well. So as you see a breakdown of the 34 and the $30 level, you can short and cover. But if you were someone here who started to short and you didn't cover, you essentially got stuck and you got basically squeezed out. And so one of the things that I want to see again is what? The RSI to come back to what? To one of these levels here, right? Right around 50, right? Is where we see some bounce. Once again, maybe off the 20-day is where I would dip by, which right now is trading at $20. I don't think it's going to come back to 20, but I definitely can see a sell-off coming back down here to 27, okay? And then trading between 20, probably about 27 and upwards to, the 27 to, what do I have here? 28 to go long. And then we can get back up into the 30s. That's where I would dip by, right? So right around the 27 to the 28 level is where I would dip by. And like I said, wait for that high day where everyone's selling and see where that level holds and where does it hold. And we know it's already held 30, but that's not where I'm interested in. I'm interested in here, right? Right when we had that first movement, right where the longs were in control, and this right here, this vertical movement is basically the shorts being squeezed out. Okay. So again, wait for the sellers to come in, wait for that high day where we're just selling off. And like I said, if you want to dip by Gamestop 27, my best play, sold a ton of puts for Friday expiration, last Friday expiration at 27, some on 30, recognizing that we held 30. And again, if you follow the DDD pattern, it was just a safe bet. Of course, I went light, and then I added to my position for Friday expiration, and it was just my best play I've had in quite a while. So with that said, guys, similar to, talking about my sort of profitable chart setup, this is what I want you to look at is a couple things. Is I want you to look at, again, the play where GameStop hit essentially a under VWAP and went up and then created a channel. And the reason why I think this is a profitable chart setup is you have clearly defined levels. And a lot of times when those levels form, right, a lot of times people are getting short and they're waiting for it to break. And then it goes back up and it hits that top of that channel. And then they cover their position and then they short again. And then it doesn't break, and then they have to cover their position, and it's just sort of back and forth, right? So this sort of channel play, and again, if you watch DDD, has been a great play. So when you see these stocks get overextended and they start to sell off, there's always this key level right before VWAP, which it gets bought up, and then you can start to see the channel form. And so this $30 area was validated as we sell off. And the same thing with DDD, which happened a couple weeks ago. We had the same thing, right? We started trading in this channel, and let's see, it looks like it's been quite a while. So we've had this, this upward movement, and then you can see we bounced right off the VWAP, was right around here, around 19-ish is where I had my long. And then you can see that we just started trading upwards, and we had this channel between 19 up to about 23, and then we broke out again. And so one of the things that you can do if you're a long trader is that you can actually use the bottom part of that channel as your stop loss. So if it hits, for example, if the stock for whatever reason goes below that, you can hit that as your stop, but then you can go long at that level expecting an upward movement because shorts are constantly getting trapped in that channel. They're getting trapped. And another example of this that I personally like is, let me go ahead and find this date here, is Tesla. Tesla did this not that long ago. Excuse me, it was the 23rd, I believe, of December. So one of the things that I did on the 23rd of December is I actually recognized what Tesla was doing, and it was holding up this sort of pattern. Let's see here. So if you look what Tesla was doing here, and this is my 1 minute chart, and I apologize if it's a little choppy here, is it held this pattern. So this chart pattern of this consolidation in this channel where you see this upward sort of momentum play, and then what you see is that the shorts are hurting because, again, we're expecting a flush below VWAP and it just holds. Okay, so if you see this chart pattern, you can see that Tesla had a channel between 641 to 648. So coming the next day, when I was trading this, when I basically got a position, I basically came in with a 640 level 641 level, excuse me, right here as an entry for a long for Tesla, and that's what I was risking, was a breakdown on that channel. So let's just say 639. And so guess what happened the next day? So we traded in this channel, this very tight, clearly, this clear channel really for Tesla, and we hit a low that day, which was 20, was it the 20, excuse me, of 641. Okay, so when you hit 641 as a low and the high went to 666. Okay, so we had a clearly defined level right there at 641. We had this channel form. We went long at the bottom of that channel, which happened to be the low of the day. And then guess what? We went from 641 and we went and we had a good 20, 30 point move up north, right? And again, it held its level. So this is how shorts are going to get hurt, because they're waiting for the breakdown and it gets bought up. They wait for the breakdown and it gets bought up. So if you're going long on that bottom channel, knowing that that level's holding, and then of course it gets squeezed right back up. Okay. So with that said, guys, I hope that helps. If you have any questions or comments on anything that we covered in the video, please do post it below. I do respond to all the comments. And with that said, guys, I wish you the best of luck. This is going to be a shorter week. It's going to be 4 days of trading. And so I wish you guys the best of luck as always. If you did enjoy the video, please do hit the like button. I know you probably hear that a lot when you watch these YouTube videos, but again, we're a 100% free content channel, and anything you can do to help grow the channel is by hitting the like and subscribe button. It really does help with the channel. YouTube does recognize when more people do like the video. So I appreciate it, guys. As always, best of luck trading, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.